I just checked the scoreboard. Yeah, it's true. Cannon, your perfect streak is through. You were talking all that mess last week, but your team fell flat and now you can't speak. You said ain't nobody touching me, but look who brought you to your knees. My lineup came alive, and now that L's in your life, no one, no one, no one can stay undefeated in this league. No one, no one, no one. Your record's got a blemish now. You said your squad was built to last, but Dak came through and whooped that ass. I know. Jamar tried to put up a fight. You can say what you like, but everyone knew you were a fraud. No one, no one, no one is undefeated anymore. No one, no one, no one. Welcome into the Showtime Fantasy Football Podcast. Today is Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. This is your host from sunny Dallas, Texas, Ty Stewart Langston, three-time champion of the Blind Squirrels Fantasy League. Welcoming in my co-host, also three-time champion of this league from Rogers, Arkansas, Trayden Benz. How we doing, brother?
Mixed results. I'm a 6-game winning streak in fantasy, so that feels good. But weekly flag football update. We did get our ass kicked tonight. We actually got mercy ruled by Last King, so not a good feeling there. I think they scored
mercy ruled.
Yeah, we kind of I don't know. We just kind of shit the bed. We threw some picks. Our defense didn't get a single stop. Tough night, but we're going to go back to the drawing board, review the film, and see what we need to do different next time.
Sounds like you guys need a center transfer from out of state.
Yeah, we might be looking in the portal for some options, but not sure what's out there.
I did hear that Aaron Glenn is trying to decide if Luke will get to start at quarterback next week.
Yeah, we're not going to reveal for competitive reasons what we're thinking there.
All right, speaking of competition, we had an amazing, exciting, electric, not really, bunch of blowouts again here in week 7 of the Blind Squirrels Fantasy League. Let's start with some irrelevant matchups to recap. Lucas Rapert, 179 to 120 over Suck My Dicka. Bo Nix tried to make this interesting in the afternoon window in that Broncos 33-point fourth quarter. He ends up with 43 fantasy points, but the rest of Andrew's lineup really just huge disappointment. Trevion Henderson might be the biggest bust in fantasy. That was a horrible pick. 0.5 points, doesn't even see the field really. Bill Krosky Merritt followed up his breakout with 2 subpar games against terrible defenses. Can't really trust him. Definitely not startable in a 10-team league. It is nice to see some production from the receiver position here for Andrew. Devontae Smith actually quietly putting together a top 15 fantasy season, had his best performance of the year, 28 fantasy points. Jalen Hurts was tearing apart the Vikings secondary. And then CeeDee Lamb is back, 110 yards and a touchdown, had a long bomb touchdown in his return against Washington. Not so much on the return side with George Kittle. 0 receptions, 0 yards, a bagel in his return. They kind of dominated the game. It was poor game script. He spent most of the game blocking for CMC, which we'll get to here in a moment. And then Jordan Addison, I do want to kind of give a little shout out. Jordan Addison ends up being a pretty good pick by Andrew. After that 3-game suspension, he's got 12 or more fantasy points in all 3 games since he's come back, 128 yards on 12 targets in this one with Carson Wentz. So definitely a startable player there. Defense -4. Hated to get that start on Thursday. It was just bad vibes in this one for Andrew starting on Thursday. He's still without Bucky Irving, and he had Josh Allen on bye. So just not a lot of positive things coming out of this one for Suck My Dicka. For Luke, circle the wagons. This was absolutely huge. He was 1-5, must-win game coming in. He's had some quarterback struggles. He finally got his first 20-point game last week, I think, from Herbert, and this week he goes 26 from Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, of all people, a top 8 fantasy quarterback right now. And then, yeah, it was just an awesome week overall from Luke's team. CMC, 35 on Sunday Night Football. Quinshon Judkins, 3 touchdowns against the crummy Dolphins. Devontae Adams, 3 touchdowns on 35 yards in that London game. So this was just a blow-up week for Luke. He had a couple of Dolphin bagels as well. Waddle 2, Waller 0. So he basically just eliminated 2 starting spots and still put up 180 in this one. Sun God, 86 yards and a touchdown on Monday night. And then Keenan Allen took a couple weeks off there. He's old, he needs to rest, but he was back this week. 14 targets, 119 yards on 11 catches and a touchdown. 24 DST and kicker combo ain't too bad either for Luke. This is a good week for Luke. You wanted to see signs. You kind of felt like the roster pieces were there. He's without Bowers. Debo also missed this week, but you just wanted to see some life out of Circle of Wagons. I think he had lost 3 or 4 in a row coming into this one. So big time bounce back here for Luke. We'll see if he can carry this momentum moving forward.
Yeah, big win for Luke, all the way up to 2-5, trying to crawl his way into irrelevance. Taking a look at our next game, we had Cole and Will. Cole took this one down 130-119 as the matchup king. We kind of continue to doubt Cole's team, but he's on a 4-game win streak. So I don't know. We have to reevaluate Cole and his potential to make the playoffs. Will, just the brutality continues. The humanity, 1-6, 4 L's in a row. Looking at this matchup, this was our closest matchup of the week. It kind of came down to Monday night. Will needed a miracle comeback from Jahmyr Gibbs and Mike Evans, but Mike Evans broke his clavicle in like the first quarter and ended up with 0. So even though he actually got a miracle heroic game from Gibbs with 35, he just didn't get anything. He got 0 from Evans, so it just wasn't enough. A little too late there from Jahmyr Gibbs, which second week in a row he's gotten like really good performances on Monday, and it just didn't matter. Looking at Will's team, Bryce Young, I'm not really sure why he went with Bryce Young as his Lamar replacement. Definitely a dumbass play of the week. Bryce Young, I just feel like he had to find something better than Bryce Young for his Lamar replacement, but he didn't. DeAndre Swift was a bright spot. He's been kind of good the last couple weeks. Drake London fell back to earth, only 6 on Sunday Night Football. George Pickens also kind of fell back to earth with CeeDee Lamb back, only 10. And Will just continues to struggle at tight end. We kind of talk about this every week. It's like, and he's been joking about it, like whoever he drops goes off, and then he goes with the hotness off of waivers, and then Goddard has a horrible game, only 3. So, at least you tried, but tough scenes here for Will. He's just kind of bracing for the Sacco at this point. We've talked about it. I think Will's team is definitely better than Sacco worthy, but with Lamar being out, Mike Evans coming back and getting hurt again. I just doesn't feel like Will's year. For Cole, though, he kind of keeps just skating by. I'm not going to call this the Mickey Mouse win of the week. We'll definitely get to that one later. But Jalen Hurts, 30 he really gets carried by Hurts and Bijan a lot of the time. Jalen Hurts, 30 burger, Bijan, 18. And then his defense and kicker combined for 34. So that was a really huge for Cole. Other than that, he just kind of got a lot of mid performances. Genty is horrible. That was a good sell by you. DK had a bad game. Tucker Kraft had a bounce back with 14 touchdown there for the Packers. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with Cole continuing to stack up wins, but I don't know. Are you buying this from Cole, or is this just kind of a lucky win streak?
I'm not buying it. When you're that reliant on two players, it's the cookie's going to crumble at some point, and I think that trade is going to bite him in the ass. He doesn't have the depth either, and I feel like he hasn't really hit bye week hell or anything. Like if Bijan gets hurt or something, like he is so close to something going horribly wrong here. Will had multiple choose poorlies in this one. If he had started Olave or Stevenson over Mike Evans, he would have won the game. So brutal there for Will.
Ooh.
All right, our last irrelevant matchup. We have some comments here from Luke Rapert, who is just blowing up the chat. He says he just needs to stack 1-0 weeks. He does want to know why you haven't readied up.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
All right, live on the pod, we will be able to see Trey's blurred out recruiting strategy. And then he says, getting ahead to the previews, but Max has 7 players he won't drop either on bye or looking like out to injury, and Lord knows he won't trade. So there may be a lineup conundrum. I saw Max was making some moves this afternoon. I believe he picked up a quarterback and a kicker maybe, but I think there's still moves to be made if Garrett Wilson is going to be out. So we'll get to that in the preview segment, but thanks for pointing that out, our loyal listener, Lucas Rapert, in the chat. All right. Last irrelevant matchup, looking at last week. This one was definitely a bit of a Mickey Mouse win for Josh. He takes down Jerry, the free win, the bye week of the league. Jerry puts up 85, which is pretty much what he averages. Josh gets a win with 117. Big highlights here for Josh would be A.J. Brown and Trey McBride. A.J. Brown and Trey McBride both had 2 touchdowns. A.J. Brown over 120 yards, looked great, caught some deep balls. So definitely looking like a pretty good buy low from Josh. A.J. Brown bouncing back from his struggles early in the year. And then Trey McBride this year seems like he's scoring more touchdowns than he has in previous years. For Jeremiah, it was just another gross week of very little touchdowns. He had 2 touchdowns on his entire team, 1 from Ertz and 1 from Mayfield. This was really Baker's first terrible game. He looked awful on Monday night, threw a pick. I think he had a couple of fumbles, just was missing guys left and right that were wide open. Kamara, yeah, we kind of called this in the draft recap. Kamara, one of the worst third-round picks in the history of the league, 28th running back ranked for fantasy right now. Jefferson, defenses are just doubling him and forcing the ball to Addison. Worthy's a bum now that Rice is back. And then he's embarrassingly starting a second Saint Shaheed at flex. So I don't know. There's just not a lot to be excited about if you're Jerry. He's still rostering Godwin for some reason. McLaurin is still hurt. A-Chain is a part of just a train wreck in Miami. And McDaniel's definitely going to get fired. Tua might get benched. The whole offense just blows. So, yeah, Jerry's one of the easier locks for the Sacco. Josh, second win in a row, getting over 500 here at 4-3. Josh, not necessarily in position to make the playoffs, but at 4-3, I think you can at least dilute yourself into thinking you might escape the Sacco.
Yeah, Jerry sucks. Going to our Showtime matchups of the week presented by Pillsbury. Go get your Pillsbury cookies coming up for holiday season in stores near you. Looking at your game with Cannon, white shirt, took down Jordan Loves being on top. Cannon thought he was going to go undefeated, and you put a kibosh on that. You kind of dominated Cannon this one, 160-145. I guess it ended up being a shootout, but it was kind of a little too late for Jackson Smith and Jigba with 22 on Monday night, but you were way too far ahead. That didn't matter. You weren't sweating at all. Looking at your team here, Dak Prescott kind of continues to be a stud. You got him late in the draft. He's the number 2
QB2.
quarterback. He puts up 29 here. Joshua Jacobs, 2 touchdowns, 18 points. Jalen Warren got you off to a good start Thursday with 18. You just had a lot of guys in like those teens areas, like upper teens. Rashee Rice, 2 touchdowns in his return. He looks like a complete stud for you coming back off the suspension. Tyler Warren, I feel like he gets 70 yards and a touchdown every single week. Browns D, that was a shrewd ad by you later in the week. Cannon actually dropped them, so he gave you a 24-point defense. So I'm not really sure what he was thinking there. That might be a dumbass decision of the week, is dropping the Browns D. This was just a little bit clinical from you. Really no bagels. Darnell Mooney was the worst with 8 points, but you'll take that. Especially with Derrick Henry and James Cook on bye. I feel like this is about as good as you could have asked for from a lot of your fill-ins. Looking at Cannon's team, 145, you can't really complain about that too much. But he does take his first loss here. Let's see if we can poke some chinks in the armor here. Saquon Barkley, do we need to have a conversation about Saquon? He's the number 15 running back. He hasn't even had his bye week, so he just kind of sucks this year. Not really sure what's going on there. Kyron Williams might have a Blake Corum problem, as Corum just got just as many carries, so probably not. But we're gonna run with that narrative since Cannon lost. Romo Odunze is also kind of fallen back to earth after his really hot start. He's gone 4 points in 2 straight games. Doesn't really look like a stud number 1 receiver. Michael Mayer, that was kind of an embarrassing play. The Raiders are an absolute dumpster fire travesty. Not sure why you'd ever start a Raider. He got good games from Mahomes. Jamar Chase did go off, but he lost, so I don't really care what Jamar did. Javonte Williams, 18, Patriots D, 20. So he got some good performances, but his starting running backs in Rome were terrible. His tight end is just a revolving door of ass that he keeps putting in there. So Cannon kind of got exposed here, and you dominated him.
Yeah, Cannon just doesn't have what it takes to get to 12-0 like I did in 2023. Definitely exposed him here. After Jamar went off for 30 on Thursday, I was a little bit worried, and then JSN. I was never really worried on Monday when JSN was playing, but geez, he's so good. I am definitely thankful that the Seahawks were winning and didn't need to throw for the entire fourth quarter, because it really does feel like anytime they won, they can get JSN on a post or a comeback or something, and he's going to be wide open. So, yep, good week for me. Second win in a row. Last week, I just sent Luke to the freaking doldrums of the league, 1-5 for the defending champ. And then this week, I took Cannon's 6-0 record and just took a giant piss on it. So I'm having a good couple weeks here. All right, our last Showtime matchup of week 7, the BOGO Caniacs take home our Mickey Mouse win of the week. You beat Max 109-66. I think you get the win here with the 3rd lowest score of the week. The only 2 lower would be Max's 66 and Jerry's 85. This is absolutely brutal for your points against, 66 points. It really all starts with the quarterback position. Fields was teetering on getting benched anyways, so I'm not really sure why Max would start him. And to make matters worse, he benched Stafford, who went off for 37. Stafford threw 5 touchdowns in London, so he lost 33 points just from the quarterback position. Didn't make the difference in the matchup because the rest of his team also sucked. He only had 2 touchdowns on the week, 1 from Jordan Mason, 1 from Pacheco. Nico Collins actually is just really not having that good of a year. I think he kind of falls into that A.J. Brown conversation, Ladd McConkey, BTJ, guys that were drafted with a top 2 or 3 round pick, and now they're just almost not unstartable, but you don't feel great about it anymore. Nico Collins outside the top 30 at the position. 4 catches, 27 yards in that one on Monday night. Sam Laporta, I feel like he's chosen poorly at tight end between Kelsey and Laporta like every single week. So he needs to get that figured out. Jerry Jeudy, an embarrassing draft pick from Luke, and now an embarrassing pickup and play by Max. I get that he was kind of an injury and bye week and just everything hell, but you can't start Jerry Jeudy in 2025. Marvin Harrison is a bum. Kamani Vidal, the shoe dropped with him. He sucks. And his best player was literally the Bears defense. So you're never going to win when your best player is your defense. For the Oracle, this was just a humiliating performance, one that he's going to have to forget about quickly and move on. We kind of knew that 3-game winning streak in the middle of the season wasn't the true Jesus. He started out 2-0, or no, he started out 0-2, then he rattles off 3 wins that were actually all like 3 very good scoring wins. It wasn't just like Mickey Mouse wins. He was putting up like 140 plus average per week, and then these last 2 weeks he's completely fallen back to earth, and he's on another 2-game losing streak. We'll see if he can turn that back around, but for you, this is just picking up another free Mickey Mouse win on the back of Jonathan Taylor. 3 touchdowns, 32 fantasy points for JT. And then Ferguson as well adds another 2 touchdowns, 18 fantasy points from him. Really nothing. I guess we'll give a little shout out to Scadaboo. He's been solid the last couple weeks, up to RB8. And he's just a volume beast, finds the end zone almost every week and is involved in the passing game. So I think you can feel good about those 3 guys. Rest of your team, I mean, JMO, literally bagel. BTJ was ass. Golden is a boom bust. Wide receiver 4, not really sure why you started him. Jared Goff is a handoff merchant. And that's pretty much it. Dobbins, if he doesn't score, is going to get like 6-7 points. So, yeah, 109 Mickey Mouse win here for you, but you'll take them any way you can get them. 6 wins in a row for you. That's the high winning streak of the league right now. You're riding high. Have not lost a game since the Super Stack went down. It's got to be some kind of fantasy god voodoo from you. What are you doing? Do you have a voodoo doll at your house?
Yeah, I have a voodoo doll, and his name is Jonathan Taylor. JT coming, JT coming, JT coming. I just keep riding that horse, and I'm going to keep riding him all the way to the playoffs.
All right. That was our Week 7 recap. Again, another kind of week of blowouts. Hopefully we'll get one of these to be close here in Week 8. Let's go to our Stock Up, Stock Down segment presented by Ozarka Water. Whose team are you feeling worse about coming out of Week 7? Who are you stocked down
on? Yeah, I'm going to go with Max. We kind of just talked about it, but we thought maybe Max was going to turn it around, maybe make the playoffs for once. And he had some decent players, but he's kind of hit a lull of injuries and just doesn't really know how to make up for them. Puka's hurt and he's on bye this week. Hampton's still on IR. Garrett Wilson's hurt and on the worst offense in fantasy. And Max just doesn't really know how to recover from stuff like this. He just throws in random bums off of waivers and continues to play the same horrible players. So I think Max, maybe a week or 2 ago, maybe thought could make the playoffs, could at least be irrelevant, but his team's in shambles, and I think he could be headed one-way ticket to Sackoville.
Yeah, good pick there by you. I'm actually going to go with Andrew. I thought maybe with Lamb and Kittle coming back, it would give his team a spark, but not really. Trevion just has shown absolutely 0 signs of life for fantasy. He's droppable. Bill Krosky doesn't look startable. Tony Pollard had 18 rushing yards. There's really just so many down arrows for a lot of his guys. Bucky's injury, he's not coming back this week. Then he has a bye, so he's without Bucky at least another 2 weeks. It just doesn't really seem to be anything salvageable here. Kittle, 0 catches in his return, so you don't even feel great about that. It's pretty much Lamb and the boys right now. I guess he gets Josh Allen back off bye. There's not a lot of depth pieces to be super excited about. Maybe you thought maybe Burden would start to get more work, but he only had 1 catch in this game. Juwan Jennings sucks and is banged up. Jacoby Myers sucks and wants to get traded, and he's hurt. So, I don't know. I'm just feeling bad about Andrew. I think he's going to the Sacco. All right. Who are you stock up on?
I'm actually going to go with you. Your team, you defeated the undefeated with Cannon, and with Rashee Rice coming back, you're wondering how is he going to integrate into the Chiefs offense. Instant 20 burger. Jalen Warren, is Kenneth Gainwell going to be a problem? Nope, takes all the work. And so, and your team just, and your trade for Henry, I feel like looks even better with Breece Hall and T-Mac having horrible games and you getting a win on Henry's bye. So across the board, I feel like your moves and your lineup is starting to be solidified. You've got studs across the board. I think early on in the season, the question for you was, do you have enough studs? Like your team was always going to be solid, but do you have enough studs? And I feel like through trades and just some guys emerging, you kind of have a lineup that you look up and down. You don't feel like you have any weaknesses. And so I'm sure you're feeling the same, where like maybe over the last 2-3 weeks, you're seeing your team fully come into form where you can make that potential championship push.
Yeah, for my stock up, I'm going to go with Circle the Wagons. I know he's 1-5, so we're definitely buying low here on the stock, but it's hard not to be excited about what we saw out of Luke in week 7. Puts up 180 again with 0 from Waller, with 2 from Waddle. I just think he's got Bowers coming back off the bye next week. He's finally starting to get some quarterback production. 33 from Herbert this week, 26 from Jones. Christian McCaffrey is a fantasy superstar, 35 points this week. Showed everyone that he still can get efficiency on the running game. So as long as McCaffrey stays healthy, that's an auto 20-plus every week. We finally saw Devontae Adams start to connect on some of those short yardage targets, 3 touchdowns. We'll see what happens when Puka comes back, but I still think Stafford prefers Adams in the red zone. And then Judkins, one of the worst drops of all time by Josh, in turn, is one of the best pickups of all time by Luke. Snakes him off waivers for like, what, $3 a fab or something crazy like that. But he is RB14 as a rookie, and he barely even played the first couple weeks of the season. So, yeah, I think he's got something with Keenan. He's got something with Debo. Not sure he has anything with Chuba anymore, but it doesn't matter because he's got some guys emerging. If you ask me to name any team with 3 or less wins currently that I think could still make a run at the playoffs, I would actually pick Luke's team at 2-5.
Agree.
All right. Now it is time for the waiver wire. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this week's waiver wire. It was super boring and not consequential. Highest bid, Cannon just desperately pining for a fix to his tight end disaster. $27, Aronde Gadsden. Rookie tight end from LA. He had 164 yards and a touchdown, 25.9 fantasy points last week against the Colts. Now, this is a heavy investment, $27 a fab in a what was really thought of to be maybe a streaming option, maybe a deep dynasty stash. Do you think Cannon is just kind of grasping at straws here, trying to find that magic fix at tight end, or do you think Gadsden's actually going to be a must-start, consistent, reliable option for fantasy moving forward?
Yeah, this feels like grasping at straws. I feel like this is like the classic. Their team went off for 55 passes. Herbert had a huge day, and it just happened to go to Gadsden. And then next week, he could easily have 3 for 30, and then Cannon's looking at a tight end again off of waivers.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be your overspend of the week presented by Kleenex. Although Luke did have a $23 bid in. Interesting that the Brock Bowers owner would put in a bid for, I guess, what would have been a 1 week replacement option this week while Bowers is on bye. So definitely curious there. Josh also had a $21 bid. No other bids besides those three. There's definitely, I think Josh has Trey McBride on bye. Next highest winning bid was also a tight end to Luke, again, searching for that 1 week solution. Harold Fannin Jr., also a rookie tight end. It's been a pretty good year for rookie tight ends so far. We've got Tyler Warren, Gadsden, Fannin. Loveland hasn't really done shit, but maybe he will. And then Mason Taylor's been solid. Elijah Arroyo's had a few flashes. So just kind of a cool thing we're seeing here with the rookie tight ends. Luke also added Kyle Monungai for $17, edging out Will by $2. Josh by 10, you by 17. Nice $0 bid bum. Trying to sneak Kyle Monungai off waivers. But he's looked good the last couple weeks. They're starting to get him more touches, more involved, trying to keep Swift from breaking down. We had another double-digit defense this week. Cole going $11 for the Buccaneers, who are playing the Saints. So pretty good matchup there. Josh adds Jackson Dart. You added Colston Loveland. So back to the well for Loveland for you. You drafted him. You dropped him. You have the number 1 tight end in fantasy. So I don't really know why you're wasting a roster spot on Loveland. Please explain yourself.
Yeah, Loveland's really good. He's going to go off in the second half of the year. I'll either trade him or just start him at flex since my team's so bad. I need flexes. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, embarrassing pickup by you. All right, now it's time for everyone's favorite segment.
Dun, dun, dun. Week 8 preview because there's no trades.
No, there actually is. We're gonna take a look back at the Jamar Chase for BTJ and
I don't think we
JMO
really need to do
trade.
that,
This was a big week for that trade. Jamar goes off for 30 points, had 23 targets, 160 yards on Thursday night. And everyone, that was a big topic in the group chat about how much you got trade raped on Thursday night. And then you were stubbornly defending that trade, saying that BTJ and JMO were going to prove you right. And they follow up Jamar's 30 burger with with an abysmal 3 for 31 out of BTJ and then 0 for 0 from JMO. So definitely one of the worst trades we've seen in recent league history. Jamar Chase has been a star since you dealt him. I think he's averaging over 25 fantasy points a game, and you bought low on 2 bums who had 1 solid flash week last week and are back to being bums this week. Please review this trade for the listeners like you would do to anyone else that made this trade. Roast yourself.
Yeah, I've been you and I have been texting back and forth about the trade. I do want to defend it first. And my defense is I did not know that Joe Flacco was going to get traded to the Bengals, and Jake Browning was the worst quarterback I've ever laid eyes on. And I was just kind of done with the Bengals, and I was desperate for any kind of potential depth. I had just lost Tyreek Hill for the season. I didn't get Diggs off of waivers. I had absolute bums. I was dealing with bye weeks. So I felt like I needed to do a 2-for-1, and I wanted to sell Jamar at that point just because I wasn't willing to wait for a potential quarterback trade. And even if they did, it basically would have had to be Flacco or Jameis for me to even care. It was Flacco, and it's worked out perfectly for Cannon. So, I definitely feel bad about selling Jamar at that point. When you look at Brian Thomas and JMO, I think I was just hoping that the first few weeks was like a blip on the radar, considering the seasons they both had last year. And, there was still potential for Brian Thomas to be an alpha number 1 wide receiver and Jameson to be just that huge play number 2 for Detroit. Hasn't really worked out that way. I don't really have a lot of hope for Brian Thomas. mostly because he just sucks at football and Travis Hunter is emerging. But honestly, I have Travis Hunter, so I partially see that as a benefit for me. Jameson, I don't really know. I feel like last year, like I'm looking at his game log last year right now, and yeah, he had a bunch of dud games, but then he also had a lot of boom games. So I'm kind of just hoping that the dud games have come a little more plentiful here in the start of 2025, and that over the last half of the season, I'm going to see some of these boom games, because I think Jameson's the kind of guy you have to just start every week and take your lumps. And this last week was a perfect example. I still won with him in my lineup. And 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have won without him. So I think 2 weeks in a row, we've seen what Jameson can do in a lineup, which is either win you the week, and then if he busts, you just hope your other players do enough, which is what happens. So I'm still hopeful long term that I can get value, and I am confident in what I did based on what I knew at the time. But looking back, I am not going to dispute that it looks like I'm the biggest idiot of all time.
Yeah, you got raped. You're a bum. Bad trade. All right. Week 8. Let's take a look at the season standings heading into week 8. You and Cannon sitting at the top, tied for the best record in the league at 6-1. Cole and myself are right behind you guys at 5-2. If we started the playoffs tomorrow, that would be the 4 teams making the playoffs. At the bottom of the league, we've got the bottom feeders, Will and Jerry at 1-6. Pretty much no hope for either of these teams. They're just starting to scout Sacco matchups at this point. The 2-5s, Andrew and Luke, at least have a delusion copium amount of hope that they can snake their way into Cancun, but it's not looking great. They've got some ground to make up. And then the teams in the middle, Max and Josh, who would right now be in Cancun if we started the playoffs, they've still got they've got an outside shot at that 4 seed, and then they've also got a chance if things take a turn for the worse, they could fall into the Sacco.
I used to be bageling. I think I'm still alive on the stream.
Hello.
Your internet's I think you're good now.
Yeah, this stream is brought to you by Taco Bell Wi-Fi. As I was saying, Max and Josh would be in Cancun if the season started right now. So, yeah, power rankings, ESPN power rankings have me up to number 1 above Cannon. And then they have Cannon at 2 and you at 3. And they actually have Cole at 4. So, do you have any big picture takeaways as we enter week 8?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I have a question for you. Do you think that we're going to see more teams in the middle as we go throughout the year? Because I feel like right now we have a clear top, a pretty clear bottom, but not like we only have 2 teams that are 3-4 or 4-3, and it feels like usually you should have like majority of the league in that realm. Do you feel like that's going to normalize, or are you thinking it's going to continue being this way?
I think we can agree on a few things. Number 1, Cole's roster is not good enough to be 5-2, so we're going to see some regression there back to the mean. I think he's a 500 team, so I could see him start to reel off some L's. I don't think Luke or Will's teams are as bad as their record indicates, so I could see Will and Luke start to pick up some wins. And then Jerry, I don't really have any hope for. I could see him going 1-12. You're definitely going to pick up some losses here over the next couple of weeks. Your schedule gets really difficult. So, yeah, I think Cannon and I are playoff locks, as indicated by the ESPN. They have both of us 93+% to make the playoffs. I think Jerry and Will are Sacco locks, but I do think realistically everything else is still up in the air. Like I think you're safe from the Sacco, but you could fall down to irrelevance. Max or Andrew could fight their way to Cancun as well. So a lot still to sort out, but it starts all right here in week 8, pivotal week 8 in the Blind Squirrels Fantasy League. Let's start out by looking at the irrelevant matchups. We've got Circle the Wagons versus the Renaissance, 2-5 versus 1-6. Like I said, there's no hope for Jerry, so this is just Sacco damage control. He's scouting players, seeing who needs to trade. Hello? I don't know what just happened. It appears I'm in the stream by myself. I don't know if Trey accidentally left or what. Here we go. He's back. Hello?
Hey, I was lagging, so I left and joined back.
Okay. All right. We're picking the Luke versus Jerry game. Breaking down the matchups here. Luke is going with Daniel Jones again at quarterback, home to Tennessee. I don't know. It kind of feels like a JT game to me. Their run defense is horrible. Kind of see that being a blowout. Maybe Jones gets 2 touchdowns in that game as well. And then Baker Mayfield for Jerry coming off his worst game of the season at New Orleans. Baker's a little banged up. All of his receivers are banged up. They're going into a bye. I actually don't have a great feeling about this one for Baker. I think Daniel Jones outscores him. Running back, we've got CMC and Judkins versus A-Chain and Kamara. I do like A-Chain to have a bounce back compared to what he did against Cleveland, but it's just so hard to pick against Christian McCaffrey right now, so I got to give Luke the edge at running back. Wide receiver, Luke is without both Devontae and Sun God, so he is definitely down to his 3rd, 4th, 5th string receivers in this one. Keenan Allen and Jalen Waddle on Jerry's side. He's got just him, Jefferson, on Thursday night. This is kind of a put up or shut up from Jettis. He just needs to see something out of him. Thursday night, prime time, get Jerry off to a good start. Let's get a 20 burger out of Jefferson. Why not? And then Worthy just feels so boom bust. He's wide receiver 60. He hasn't really done anything, and he only had 4 targets in Rice's first game back. I don't really love the start here from Jerry, but I don't think he has much better options unless McLaurin is going to magically heal up. Tight end, we've got Ertz versus Fannin. That feels like a wash. And then at flex, we've got is Njoku playing?
He practiced, I think.
Okay, if Njoku is out, I'd like the Fannin play quite a bit more. If not, I don't really know what Luke's doing there. You might want to go back to waivers. In the flex battle here, we've got Chuba, 2nd string running back, Hubbard, Rico's water boy, and then Debo, broken heel Samuel. This is actually kind of a tough week for Luke with these buys and injuries. His lineup's not great. And then for Jerry, Wan'Dale Robinson and Rashid Shaheed, just kind of 2 low-end wide receiver 3s. With the Shaheed, you're hoping for a long play. With Wan'Dale, you're hoping for half PPR, racking up 3-yard catches down the field. So overall, Jerry's just uncompetitive this year. He's a bye week. Free win for Luke. I think he keeps it rolling. Circles the wagons all the way to 3-5.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Luke. This kind of picking against Jerry is kind of the free space this year, as you mentioned. So I'm going to go with Luke, even with some of the bye weeks he's dealing with. All right. Looking at Will versus Cannon. Bear Jew versus Jordan Loves being on top. 1-6 versus 6-1. So on paper, this one could be a blowout win for Cannon. Will's hoping Lamar is back. Right now, he's saying it's questionable. Mahomes has been rolling though, and at home, you got in prime time, you gotta love Mahomes there. Even if Lamar ends up playing, he might be hurt. Running back, Saquon and Javonte Williams versus Ramondre and Swift. Gibbs is on bye for Will, so his running back room is down a superstar. But honestly, Swift and Stevenson have been playing okay. Like, he's not going to get duds out of those guys, but I'd still give the edge to Cannon with Saquon and Javonte. They've both, Saquon's not playing well, but home against the Giants, and then Javante's just been playing so well.
Revenge game
At
for Javonte,
receiver,
too.
yeah. At receiver, Jamar Chase and Egbuka. Egbuka kind of had a bad game against the Lions. 12 targets, but only 4 catches. So he's kind of looking to bounce back with Mike Evans, pretty much out for the year. I like Egbuka against the Saints. Will's going with Drake London against the Dolphins, George Pickens at Denver. So pretty solid receivers all the way around, but got to give the edge to Cannon with Jamar. Just Jamar and Egbuka is just really too strong this week. Tight end, we got Dallas Goddard. Will's kind of just sticking with the Goddard play, and then Cannon just thrust Gadsden right off of waivers into his lineup. Kind of feels like a wash. They could both go like 4 for 40, and I wouldn't bat an eye. Flexes, Cannon's rolling with Odunze again, and Rico Dowdle. Not really sure about this play. You've got Michael Pittman sitting there on the bench, who's the number 9 receiver. I don't know why he just doesn't believe in Michael Pittman. Like, he does it every week, and he just sits in every week. I'd probably be playing Michael Pittman over Rico personally, but I guess Buffalo's defense looked bad last time we saw them, so we'll see. Will's going with Olave and Sutton. Those guys have been pretty consistent flexes, so I like that for Will. Overall, I kind of have to just roll with Cannon, though. Jahmyr Gibbs on bye, and Mike Evans tearing his clavicle or breaking his clavicle. Just kind of tough vibes. I'm seeing 1 and 7 for the Bear Jew here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go the other way. I'm going to go with the Bear Jew. I think he pulls off the shocking upset in this matchup. Cannon got exposed last week, and I think he hangs his head and lets me beat him twice. He's got a new kid just like you. He's distracted. He doesn't really have time for fantasy. Meanwhile, Will is just out here crushing water presentations and setting his lineup. So I think Surtain is going to shadow Lamb, leaving Pickens wide open. Pickens is going for 20. Swift is going to score 2 touchdowns, and then Lamar is going to go off in his return. So I think this one's going to be high scoring. I like Will to take it down 139 to 136. All right. Not our last relevant matchup. We have 2 more. Let's go with the old rivals here. Josh versus Max, 4-3, 3-4. These are the 2 teams that we talked about being in the middle of the standings. So pretty important pivotal game for both teams, trying to fight for positioning as we head into the downstretch of the season. Josh does not have Jaden Daniels this week. He's out with a hamstring injury, so he's turning to Jackson Dart off of waivers. Dart been kind of a revelation for the Giants here over the last few weeks. They just played Philly in week 6, and he had 25 fantasy points. So Josh will be hoping for a repeat performance from Dart, trying to build off the last couple weeks. And then another new quarterback here for Max, with Fields getting benched and Stafford on bye. He is turning to Joe Flacco, the 41-year-old himself. I like the matchup home against the Jets. The Jets secondary has been pretty prone to giving up big plays, and it's tough to shit on someone starting a quarterback with those kind of receivers any week, especially with this matchup. I actually think ESPN's giving the projection advantage to Dart here. I'm actually going to go with Flacco. He's got Jamar, he's got T. I could see Dart maybe struggling on the road in Philly a little bit. I know he's got the rushing advantage. Definitely Flacco's not going to give you anything there, but I like Flacco to go over 275 yards passing, maybe 3 passing touchdowns, 2 of them to Jamar, just continue to make you feel like an idiot. Kind of an interesting twist for this one is Josh on the other side with Chase Brown and Higgins, kind of the 2 Bengals potentially blocking Flacco. So Max is definitely going to be rooting for Flacco to throw those touchdowns to Jamar or random bummy tight ends, maybe Yoshivas. All right, running back, we've got Chase Brown and Breece Hall versus Jordan Mason and Kamani Vidal. Max with an interesting double Thursday running back matchup here tomorrow night. Jordan Mason at the Chargers, Kamani Vidal home against the Vikings. The Vikings have a pretty good run D. Aaron Jones, I think, is questionable. It'll be interesting to see his first game back, how much work he gets versus Mason. I do prefer. Oh, wow. Josh's running backs are also playing each other with Chase Brown and Brees Hall in that Bengals Jets game. Between those four, I kind of lean Josh here, just because those defenses are worse. So I just kind of like there to be more points in that game, and I think the Vikings and Chargers will be a little bit more pass happy. Wide receiver. Oh my God, Max is starting Jerry Jeudy and Troy Franklin. God, what is this? Did I accidentally click on my 32 team league app? What the hell is going on? Jerry Jeudy and Troy Franklin. I do see why Max wanted to go back to Jeudy after his checks notes 17 yards last week. He's back to Jeudy again at New England. Also a tough matchup. The Franklin one I at least kind of understand because he's home against Dallas. He could definitely break off a big play against that bummy secondary. But I would definitely recommend taking Jeudy out of the lineup for literally anyone. And then at Josh, he's got A.J. Brown and Ladd McConkey. Yeah, that's a Josh landslide there at wide receiver. Tight end, the Oracle doesn't have to make the Laporta-Kelsey decision this week because Laporta is on bye, so he is going to roll with Travis Kelce, home primetime against the Commanders. Could see him scoring a touchdown there. Josh, he's got Trey McBride on bye, and he missed out on all of his waiver options, so he is actually currently not fielding a tight end, which means he's probably going after. Well, actually, there's no one on waivers for tight end. Looks like everyone's addable, so Josh is just a lazy fuck and hasn't set his lineup. We'll see if he does that soon, but I'll pencil him in for like 5 points from the tight end position. And then from flexes, we've got Higgins and Flowers versus Pacheco, and I guess this is what Luke was talking about in his comment. With Nico Collins dealing with a concussion, Garrett Wilson dealing with a knee, I guess Max is hoping one of those guys plays because he is dealing with a ton of bye weeks, a ton of injuries. He doesn't really have many options. I don't know. I currently think Wilson might try to play. If he does, that'll bail Max out and give him someone to start at flex. So let's just pretend it's Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson and Pacheco versus Flowers and Higgins. I'm definitely going to go with Josh here. I'm not really feeling Pacheco at all. And then DST, Max is starting a 3.5 projected DST. Josh is starting a DST against the Cowboys. So honestly, it doesn't really look like either of these bums have set their lineups very well. This is going to be a shit show. This is going to be a clown fight. We got freaking Jackson Dart, Joe Flacco, Jerry Jeudy. This is just disgusting here in week 8 of the fantasy season. I'll go with Josh just because I can't in good faith pick someone starting Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, this was kind of the downside when we decided to go to a 2 flex league because we just have to look at lineups like this. Pretty embarrassing, but I'll go with Josh too, just kind of by default. Max is starting someone on bye, so we'll see what happens. But all right, last irrelevant matchup. We'll fly through this one. Cole and Andrew. This one's pretty important. Cole really looking to solidify a potential Mickey Mouse playoff spot, and Andrew trying to crawl his way into irrelevancy and avoid the Sacco. Looking at the matchups, Jalen Hurts versus Bo Nix. Actually, Bo Nix home against Dallas. That's a pretty good spot after he put up a monster 40 burger, mostly in the fourth quarter last week. But kind of got to like Bo Nix at home there against the Cowboys. But Hurts should be pretty good.
Is he really starting him over? Is he really benching Josh Allen?
I didn't even look at that. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Josh Allen really has been good, but he hasn't hit 30 points since week 1. So, and with the matchup, I actually don't hate it. I think it's hard to say you're going to bench Josh Allen against the Panthers, but we'll see what Andrew ends up doing there. It looks like he set his lineup and he has Bo Nix in. So, yeah, that's an interesting conundrum. You don't really want to ever bench Josh Allen, but if you ever were to, this would make some sense. Running back, Cole's got Bijan and Potato. Bucky probably not going to play. They get the Saints. Honestly, Potato's been a pretty admirable fill-in. Didn't do good last week, but against the Saints, he should be solid. Bijan against the Dolphins, that's probably a 30 burger at least. And then this is where Andrew's weaknesses really just start to show. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is unstartable after what he's done the last 2 weeks, and he's at the Chiefs. That's a terrible play, but he basically has to, unless he's going to go to waivers. I guess he can move Pollard up, and maybe start. Well, his bench kind of sucks. I feel like Andrew's done a pretty bad job of building quality depth or even trying off the waiver wire. I'm not really sure what he's doing. He hasn't made a trade. I feel like Andrew's kind of taking the year off from a roster management standpoint. But he has to start Bill. Woody Marks, I actually don't really hate him. But yeah, easy win for Cole with the running backs. Receiver, God, this is where Cole starts to show his weakness. We got Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman, the Bills combo. Yeah, those guys are going to get a lot of volume in Carolina for sure. I guess you just hope one of them scores if you start both. Andrew, Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, pretty solid plays there from Andrew at the receiver spot. Kittle and Kraft, I guess you can call it a wash. Usually you'd favor Kittle, but coming off a 0-catch game, you kind of want to see it first. Kraft coming off a pretty good game, so kind of call that a wash. Flexes, Romeo Dobbs and DK Metcalf, both in that Sunday night game. Not really sure why Cole's stacking the Sunday night game. Doesn't really feel like a shootout to me, but he's got Dobbs and DK. And then Andrew C.D. Lamb here at the flex. That's pretty nice. Although against Patrick Surtain, not really sure he's going to go off. So we'll see. Tony Pollard. This is an embarrassing play by Andrew. At Indy, too. They're going to get blown out. Tajay Spears is going to play half the game. God, Andrew's team is just terrible. But Cole's isn't particularly strong either. I just think it might be slightly better. I'm going to lean Cole. I don't know. This feels like you could just go ahead and throw up the Mickey Mouse graphic already. I'm going to go with Cole in a low scoring game, 105-92.
I'm actually going to go with Andrew. I just feel like kind of what we talked about with the balancing of the fantasy gods' fate here. Cole does not have a 5-2 roster, so he will find a way to lose this game. And Andrew will get big performances from Lamb, Kittle, Addison, Smith, and I'm just listing off anyone on his team that I don't think is horrible. All right. It is time for the Showtime matchup of the year. That's right. It is week 8, rivalry week here in the Blind Sports Fantasy League. I have owned Trey the last few years. I dominated you and blew you out in the championship in 2023. I kicked your ass last year. You're 6-1, riding high, longest winning streak in the league, 6 games in a row. You have not lost since September. And here I come rolling in 5-2, a game behind you, 2-game winning streak myself. Let's take a look at these matchups. You are in a bit of bye week hell here. Your Lions and your Jags are all on bye. I have no bye weeks other than Trey Benson, who sucks and he's hurt anyways. So we are at full strength for the Showtime matchup. Quarterback, Caleb Williams versus Dak Prescott. This is a landslide for me. QB2, versus QB 15. I will say Dak has a tough matchup at Denver, and Caleb actually has somewhat of an easy matchup. Baltimore's secondary has been kind of bad, but I'm still going to take myself there at quarterback. I think Dak Prescott's just better. Yeah, JT can't lie. I'm kind of nervous about what JT might do to me here in this matchup, home against the Titans. That 24 projection feels too low. He's been averaging. Well, he's actually averaging 24, but I don't know. The Titans blow. He had 31 on them earlier this year. I could see another 30 burger here pretty easily. So bracing for that. Hope it doesn't happen. Cam Scadaboo actually just put up 30 himself on Philly, and he gets them again here 2 weeks later. So you're kind of just hoping your running backs carry you in this one. My running backs, we've got James Cook and Derrick Henry, both coming off a bye, facing the Bears and Panthers, respectively. Two not great run defenses. I'm liking some bounce backs out of byes for those guys. I do think Cook and Henry will both outscore Scadaboo, but the combination of JT and Scadaboo, it's just hard to pick against that right now with what JT's doing on a weekly basis. So I'm actually going to give you the edge at starting running back here. Wide receiver, this is where it gets embarrassing for you. This is kind of in the Jerry Jeudy, Khalil Shakir, Bill Krosky, Woody Marks range of starters. We've got Sean Booty, 6.34 projection here for Trey. Kind of hate this play by you. The Browns have really good corners, and just kind of feels like this could be a gross game up in the Northeast. It's getting cold. Could see them trying to lean on Ramondre and their defense to get this one done. Don't really think Booty's going to do anything. And then you're trying to stack Caleb with DJ Moore. Ever since losing the super stack, you've just been trotting out bummier and bummier stacks every week. I think you tried Goff and Chamo, maybe Lawrence and BTJ at one point. It's just embarrassing. Now you're rocking with Williams and Moore. DJ kind of sucks. He's the 48th ranked wide receiver in fantasy right now, and he's still kind of nicked up with some sort of a hip injury. So didn't practice today. We'll see if he gives it a go, but either way, he sucks. Doesn't matter. For me, this is the draft pick. You actually had Rashee Rice on your worst picks list coming out of the draft. So could see him making you look kind of stupid here. Monday night, prime time. They're going to continue to showcase him, ramp him up out of the suspension, like him to have a big game. And then currently wide receiver 2, I'm rocking with Quentin Johnson, QJ. Not really sure I'm going to stick with that. I'm kind of looking at Diggs as a potential option, but we'll see how I feel tomorrow. I got to make that decision tomorrow before the Thursday night game kicks off. It might depend on the health status of the Chargers' offensive tackles. Give Herbert some time to throw the ball downfield. Tight end, this is a fun matchup here. Tight end 1 versus tight end 3 on the year. Ferguson and Warren have both been super hot. I do like Fergie this week because, as we talked about, Surtain, the DBs for the Broncos are really good. They're going to try to take away Lamb and Pickens, which kind of leaves Ferguson to work over the middle of the field, work in the red zone, get some touchdowns. Tyler Warren's just been a superstar. I will say his worst game of the year did come against Tennessee in week 3. He only had 38 yards on 3 catches, no touchdowns in that one. So I do think the Titans are like weirdly good against tight ends for some reason, maybe just because they get run on so easily. So could definitely see a JT game, but I'll be praying for Tyler Warren to do something. I will lean you there. I just think Ferguson's set up better there in the matchup against Denver. And then flexes. Yeah, this is kind of where I start to blow you out here. 3 of our 4 flexes are on Sunday night in that Pittsburgh Green Bay Packers game. You're rocking with Matthew Golden, the 61st ranked receiver. This is just kind of a desperation dart throw from you. And then J.K. Dobbins, you're just kind of hoping he falls in the end zone. And then I've got 2 running backs facing each other, Josh Jacobs, RB7, and Jaylen Warren coming off a career-high 157 total yards. I think both these guys are absolute workhorses. And I do think this will be a close competitive game. So I don't think the game script will get out of hand for either one. I like them both to go over 15 half PPR points. Overall, looking at this matchup, I just think you're in bye week hell. Your fantasy luck is running out. You've been just stacking up Mickey Mouse win after Mickey Mouse win. You've Mickey Mouse your way all the way to 6-1, but this is kind of where it comes crashing down. Mm-hmm. The shoe's going to drop this week. I'm going to just beat the tar out of you. I'm thinking like a 50 to 60 point margin at least. I like a lot of my plays. I think Derrick Henry is going to go off. I'm going to take myself 154 to 80. I just think I'm going to decimate you and pants you in front of the rest of the league.
You know what? I'm not really ready to check out of my Disney resort hotel yet. I'm going to win another Mickey Mouse game. You're going to fall apart somehow. Dak Prescott's going to get absolutely clamped by the Broncos D in Denver, Mile High. Actually, he's going to throw a touchdown, but it's to Ferguson. And then, James Cook, Derrick Henry. I don't know. Those guys will probably do well, but they just won't have the same kind of blow-up potential that JT has. Quinn Johnston is kind of a bum. He's been getting less and less targets. He's going to probably get 0 tomorrow night. Rashee Rice only played half the snaps with Mahomes. He's not going to score a touchdown this week. They were just trying to feed him pity touchdowns because he sped and killed someone or whatever he did. I don't know. Tyler Warren, the Colts are just going to run every play. I don't really see Warren doing anything. Jacobs and Jalen Warren, I don't know. That game's going to be so narrative heavy about Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. I just think they're going to throw in the red zone. I don't really see any touchdowns there. So I don't really know how it's going to happen for my team, but I think your team is just going to crumble to the expectations. You need this one more than me. You're 5-2. I'm 6-1. So you're kind of desperate here for a win. I don't really care if I win, but the Mickey Mouse train will continue rolling on. Your team is going to bagel. It's going to shit its pants, pee down its leg, whatever term you want to use. You're going to score like 100 points. And Jonathan Taylor is going to go for 50. And the rest of my team will scrap up enough points to beat you. You're probably going to get butthurt over a Kayshon Boutte touchdown. Caleb Williams is going to stack with DJ Moore. And J.K. Dobbins is going to fall in the end zone twice, and I'm going to win 125 to 105. Mickey Mouse will continue rolling on.
All right. Well, that would be fun. I guess we'll see what happens as this rivalry week unfolds. If you haven't already, check out those rivalry week game poster. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to mention our matchup will come down to Monday Night Football, hopefully. At the very least, it'll come down to Sunday night, where you have Jacobs and Warren, and I have Matthew Golden. And then if it's still in doubt on Monday night, you've got Rashee Rice, and I've got Harrison Butker. So hopefully we at least get some late week drama that we haven't really been seeing much in the league lately.
Yeah, that would definitely be fun with Showtime. I'm sure there would be a lot of text back and forth, not only in the group chat, but between you and I. It should be a fun week. As always, thank you guys all for listening to the Showtime Fantasy Football Podcast. This was your Week 7 review, Week 8 preview. We'll be back at you next week with a Week 8 review, Week 9 preview. Good luck to everyone this week. Have fun watching football.